Welcome, parents, to the 8th grade academics back to school night slideshow.
All right. Hi, I am Danielle Pignataro, humanities teacher for 805 and 806, along with Ms. Stableford, and I'm going to get us started. So what is humanities? For most of you, you already know the answer to this question because you've been at New Voices for now your third year. But just to review, it is an interdisciplinary approach to teaching the units of study that integrate English language arts and social studies. They're aligned to the New York State Next Generation Learning Standards, and our classes meet 2 to 3 periods each day.
So my name is Miss Teresa Scanapiego Rivera, and I am the special education teacher for the 8th grade humanities teacher, and I teach alongside Miss Agostino. So we're going to just talk, this slide is all about the curriculum. So we started off the year so far, we're in the middle of our immigration unit, discussing the past and the present, as well as the similar experiences that the early immigrants had and how that connects to today's and current events and today's events. After immigration, we're going to go straight into the Roaring 20s and the Great Depression. And then we're going to go into World War II and then into the Civil Rights Movement. In between those units, we have, after the Roaring 20s and the Great Depression, we read the novel of Mice and Men. After Mice and Men, and we'll go into our World War II unit, and then from there we'll go into our final novel for the year, and well, it's a memoir, and it's called Night by Elie Wiesel. So we're trying to incorporate different voices, different perspectives, and making sure that we're linking the past events to current events.
Hi, I'm Hannah Labovich. I am the humanities teacher for 801 and 802. Some of you already know me because I had your students last year. I was teaching 7th grade last year. So I'm going to talk about some of the standards we're teaching towards, and we're reading closely and working with the students. We're continuing to work with the students on citing evidence from grade level fiction and nonfiction, and looking for text to support an analysis of the central idea or author's message. They will be working on tracing and evaluating the argument and specific claims in a text. Being able to recognize credible sources and relevant information. They'll be writing arguments with claims and reasons, and relevant evidence. And with counterclaims also. The bullet points are sort of making their way slowly across the screen. And writing literary essays analyzing various aspects of a novel, including theme.
I'm Miss Agostino, and as Ms. Rivera said, I co-teach with her for 803 and 804. I'm going to talk about the independent reading. The 8th graders are going to be reading independently for 2 periods a week. Most of the 8th graders have Fridays as an independent reading period because we do have a 6-period day, and then another day to follow that. At this time, students are going to read. They're going to track their reading in their notebooks with an activity. Maybe a teacher might give them a bookmark to work on. Teachers will be conferencing with students during this time. Some students will be working in book clubs, and then they will be responding to reading in other ways. Students should be reading actively every day in order to complete 4 books per marking period. We're suggesting that they read 30 to 45 minutes a night. Students should also bring their independent reading books to school every single day. Just because we don't have independent reading on a specific day, we expect them to take out their books if they're done with a project or they're waiting for other students to finish working on assignments. They take out their books, they read, and that time can go towards the 30 to 45 minutes they're supposed to read every day. They're also going to be completing iReady lessons weekly, and they have already taken an iReady diagnostic. They will be taking a MAP NWEA next week for ELA to track skill development. And here we've just listed the independent reading expectation sheet that we've sent home for parents to sign. It's just here again for you to look at, and it will be posted online so that you can look at it again later.
I'm so sorry. I lost my Zoom screen for a minute. This is Miss Stapleford, Alessandra Stapleford, and I teach with Miss Pignataro in classes 805 and 806. So continuing this year, students will, of course, in writing, work on the mechanics, grammar, punctuation, spelling, and the rules will be reinforced through their classroom writing assignments. For vocabulary, for each unit that we have, we will learn vocabulary words and track them for history content and also for literature. And we'll also always have quizzes to assess the students' vocabulary knowledge. And students always know ahead of time when their quiz will be, so they'll have ample time to prepare.
Unmute.
Sorry, needed to unmute. Okay, so let's talk about the grading policy. And I know that this was sent home in the welcome letter for humanities that also needed to be signed, but we thought it would be important for you to see it here as well. So we're always going to post grades on Jupyter, and Jupyter should definitely be checked regularly. And averages are only going to be posted on Jupyter. Google Classroom will not have a final or an accurate average. Log in weekly. So we encourage parents and the students to log in weekly to check on the grade accuracy and any messages that may need to be addressed. Report card grades. Students are going to receive one grade in Jupyter, and that grade is going to be used for both the ELA section and the social studies portion of humanities. So you'll see the same grade on both the report cards. And so we calculate and we break up the grade as follows. So out of 100, we do 40% assessments, quizzes, Socratic seminars, then essays, projects would be assessments. And then 30% is homework and classwork. 20% is independent reading, and 10% is their participation and effort.
Homework. You can expect your kids to have homework almost every night. It's an extension of what we're doing in class. Students write their homework in their planners. We put it on the board and they copy it down. It is not always posted on the Google Classroom. So students need to be responsible to make sure that they have their homework copied down accurately in their planners. And of course, as Ms. Rivera already said, students are reading most nights for a minimum of 30 minutes. And homework that is reviewed in class, we go through and we go through all the answers, or we discuss it in class. This homework cannot be handed in late, obviously, because they already have all of the answers.
So you can communicate with all of us through Jupyter. That is the best way to do it. That is the fastest way for us. You should know at this point who your child's humanities teacher or teachers are. So any questions you have about anything, feel free to reach out to us, and we will respond.
Okay, so some important dates for this year. The ELA state exam, it's to be determined, in April sometime generally. The marking periods, first marking period ends December 5th. The second marking period ends March 19th, 2026. And the third one ends on the last day of school, June 26th. We have parent-teacher conferences, virtual parent-teacher conferences, November 13th, and then again in March 19th. And the graduation and senior dance, all that is yet to be determined, and you will be notified as soon as those things are established.
Hi, I'm Joseph Ofudo. I'm a math teacher for sections 801, 802, and 803. We teach the algebra curriculum. Could we go to the next slide? Unless Ms. Kraus and Mr. Pang, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself or come back a little later.
Hi,
Uh,
I'm Ms.
go
Kraus.
ahead.
Me and Mr. Pang teach 804, 805, and 806.
Hello, everybody.
All right. This is also a welcome letter that each of you child has received, and you can also see this on the slideshow. There's a few different expectations that we'll go through, but this all spells it out exactly as you might see it here. So if there are any questions that you still might have, feel free to reach out to us and we can explain those particular things. This is a really huge aspect of the classroom. We do try to keep their bags light. Obviously, with a bunch of different classes, we don't want to have too much in there. The biggest thing that I would make sure that your child is coming back and forth with is their graphing composition notebook. Obviously, in the beginning of the school year, sometimes they try to use different notebooks, and that gets very confusing. And so we want to really enforce that they're using the one notebook and not switching on day Tuesday, Wednesday, and then back and forth. So that's really essential. So we'll do that part. We also provided students with them if they did not have one on the first day. Pencil pouch is a really nice way to organize everything, coming prepared with pencils, erasers, any highlighter they might need, and also a pocket folder so they can keep their things separate from all of the other classes. We do have a class set available for calculators that we use, and we've started using those just recently. We highly encourage on the supply list over the summer that they also get one so they can have one at home. So if that is something that they have not yet gotten, that we really encourage them to have one. So that way, when they go home, they can also keep going through the practice material, especially the unit that we're currently in really takes into account some of the methods we need to use to analyze data. I can't see what's after the calculator because our photos are on the bottom, but if you could go to the next slide, that would be fine. So some basic things about daily activity notes and assessments. We try to make sure that they have lots of different examples so they can replicate the same skills that we are exploring together. There's going to be a combination of paper activities as well as online activities. So we use a variety of resources so they get a well-rounded version of the algebra course. We do emphasize on hands-on activities as well as student discourse to ensure that they are having a lot of opportunities to not just memorize steps, but really get a conceptual understanding. The notes are really thoughtful, structured, and that way that they have a nice interactive way to go through the classroom. We do post everything on Google Classroom after class. So if your child was absent or needed to take a little extra time on note taking, we do try to give as much ample time as possible in class, but they can definitely reference it at home, especially any tutorials that we might be using for the graphing calculator. Also, it allows us for referencing for classwork, homework, and quizzes. Tests are announced, but quizzes are not necessarily going to be announced. We have performance tasks, and also we do have, through each units, we have class projects. Next slide, please. So like I said earlier, we have a few different ways that we're going to have your child interact in our classroom. Google Classroom is going to be a way where they can be expected to see links to any digital lesson, also any PDFs of the criteria of any of the lessons or notes. Assignments are expected to be, Assignments are expected to be done in their notebook, unless the handout is a full sheet, which would then be kept in their folder. They do need to be coming to class prepared. We don't expect a ton, but we do want them to have their notebook, writing material, obviously pencil, and any other things that they have. If they do have their own calculator and they would like to bring theirs, some students bring in their colored version, which is a little bit more advanced in terms of the color visualization. They're welcome to bring that, but we do have one available in the class at all times for them. The ALEKS program, as always, is something that they've been expected to do on a weekly basis. Students that came into the program after their initial knowledge check this year, depending on their percentages, we are making sure that each student does a minimum of 15 topics a week. Some are expected to do 20 based on their initial assessment. Within that program, we also have what's called a PI goal, and there is a specific message on Google Classroom that has been reiterated so that students know exactly what they need to do. And that basically will allow them to continue in that ALEKS program. And each time that they're going through a pie slice, they're really thinking about focusing in on a specific type of skills each week. Next slide, please. So our school is using illustrative mathematics, and you might hear the short version is just called IM. This really, like I said earlier, really focuses on conceptual understanding and not just the memorization of steps. So students are going to have basically like a 5-step process through this, where they're going to be invited into the lesson through a warm-up. Then we have a launch, really getting them to kind of dive a little deeper, and a few different activities, usually 1 to 2, sometimes 3, depending on the objectives for that lesson. And then as we go through, we either have an activity synthesis that kind of summarize what's going on and making sure we can gauge their understanding and kind of moving it along. And at the very end of our activities, we have a lesson synthesis, which really brings out what they've been exploring. As well, at the very end, they have a cool down to kind of get a sense of how they were able to understand the material. A couple things within that program, we're going to be measuring their understanding, not just through tests and quizzes, but through their discussions. It really reinforces student discourse. So they're going to be working side by side and really trying to to work through the different problem sets that they have. We still will using ALEKS as another tool to provide additional practice beyond just the illustrative mathematics. The green book that you see on the bottom left has all of the previous assessments that are focused on the next generation, as well as the Regents Court exams that are going to be administered in June. So we're going to be starting to use that as a way to ensure that they are familiar with the language and the structure of those tests, so that when they leave here, the goal is that they are getting high school credit for the Algebra 1 Regents. On the right, you also have Desmos, which is an interactive support tool that we're going to be using to make sure that we can visualize a lot of those and also animate a lot of the lessons to bring forth a little bit more of the liveliness that makes it more interesting as well. Virtual Nerd will be used to provide sort of like assistance, so that students that may need a little more support, especially if they're absent, they can see a small tutorial of that criteria. So here in June, there's always something called Regents Week. They'll be more well-versed with that in high school, but at the end of this year, they're going to be taking an algebra 1 Regents for anybody that is passing the algebra at that time. It'll be on June 17th. Students who pass the test will receive Regents credit, which will be criteria for high school as well. Mentioned earlier, test prep is going to be infused into the curriculum. We've already started to look at Regents questions. So by the time they get to June, they're going to see hundreds, if not thousands of questions. So they should be very well prepped for that. Here is the overview of the current unit we're working on. We're about 2/3 of the way through that. And we are really focusing in on the way to talk about collecting data, displaying it, organizing it, as well as analyzing it. So this is some of the stuff that is in this unit is pretty straightforward, but then towards the end, it's really the analytical skills that they're going to be developing and also using the calculator. I'm not going to go through the next few slides, but if you wanted to click slowly through those, these are all the units that we're going to be exploring as the year goes on. So this would be able to be referenced, and each time a student is going to see a new unit, they'll be given this outline and we'll be following it along the curriculum. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to myself, Ms. Kraus, or Mr. Pang. I teach 801, 802, and 803, and Ms. Kraus and Mr. Pang teach 804, 805, and 6.
Ahoy.
Hello, everyone.
That's Mr. Bracco.
Hi, guys.
I'm Mr. O'Neill.
We're the 8th grade biology team.
Hashtag
Our
blessed.
course as well also leads to a Regents in June, one day after the algebra Regents.
Ooh.
Those students that are passing the class and do have the required lab minutes will qualify to take and sit for the Regents in June. Thankfully, this year, the Regents is about a week or so later than it was last year. So that gives us a little bit more time for review and go through some of the topics that the students need help with.
That new Regents is much more focused on literacy than content, unlike the old living environment Regents. Because of that, we're having an increased focus on labs and the performance in those labs. To sit for the Regents, they not only have to be passing the class, they have to have completed, submitted, and passed at least 1,200 minutes of labs. Now we go over that amount because sometimes, you know, students miss a lab or two, that's fine. But doing well on these Regents is really, they're going to need the literacy and kind of science content knowledge and understanding to really do well.
So 8th grade biology. So one of the things that we incorporate into our classes, we have guided note sheets. I mean, basically what the guided note sheet is, instead of having the students take notes in a notebook or on loose leaf, we give them a paper copy of the lesson each lesson. And each one of the lessons is numbered. And on those paper copy of the notes, there are diagrams, there are tables, there are charts, and about 50% of the notes we would give in that class are already on the printed copy of the lesson. So much of the work that's in our class revolves around focus questions and having them get to the most essential parts of the lesson through discussion and through table talk and cooperative learning. So these guided notes as well. What's not finished in class, that goes home for homework. And then all of those guided notes are collected the next day in class. Today's lesson, for example, is a 2-day lesson, so that we would collect on Monday. The guided notes, that comes up as classwork on Jupyter, and usually they have a point value of about 2 points. So if a child receives 2 out of 2 on it, that would be full credit for those guided notes. Next slide, please. So the class format. Our class is entirely digital, which is a very good thing. So within our lessons, all of the lessons are highlighted with the most important aspects. Those show up as yellow. So what is in yellow should be copied on their guided note sheet. if it's not already printed on there. And those things in the lessons are that we want the kids to do, instructions, those are red and blue. And sometimes those are questions or directives in class that we want the students to do. So basically on Google Classroom for each day, on one post, you will see not only the notes that are for the day and the guided sheet, but you also see a reading that is attached to it. So within Google Classroom, this is a great way for you to keep up to see what your child is doing in class each day. And it can also open up some discussions at home as well, if you're also familiar with what we are doing.
Our assessments are all designed to be relatively short. The average quiz is 10 to 15 questions long, which allows us to accommodate all IEP time requirements in one class period. It also reduces burnout, frustration, exhaustion, and they get the same amount of Regents practice that they would with traditional tests, but they end up with many smaller assignments so that a single bad day, a single off day, or something going on outside of class that's distracting them won't completely bomb their grades. A single bad test score will hurt, but it won't ruin their chances of doing well in the class in general. We also offer a lot of supports to help kids do well on these assessments. We provide summary sheets at the beginning of every little quiz unit that has important vocabulary, as well as summaries of the notes that will be on those quizzes. We give them practice quizzes 2 days before the real quiz with questions similar that they should expect to see on the real deal, which allows them to practice some of those questions, and using the answer key that's posted on Google Classroom, grade themselves and see how they did. They can use that information to make a study card, a 3x5 note card with any information that they'd like, handwritten, that they can use on the actual quiz. A cheat sheet, if you will. Finally, for kids who are feeling worried or need a little bit of extra help or time on any assignment, Mr. Bracco offers pull-out sessions, period 1 on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Those are open to every single student, but they have to choose to sign up. They sign up in our class and they bring a pass to their elective teachers who will sign them, send them to Mr. Bracco for a period or less as needed. And then we send them right back to electives after they've gotten their questions answered. Next. Because we're less focused on testing and more focused on building up a good understanding of science processes, assessments are only worth 30% of their grade here. Another 30% is for classwork and homework. That's those guided notes that Mr. Bracco mentioned. And another 30% for the labs. That's not just completing the labs, that is taking assessments on those labs, showing an understanding of what we were learning, the systems that we were focusing on in those labs, and the activity itself. Another 10% is for participation and effort, which they'll get by turning in assignments complete and on time.
Here is our policy for absent work and makeup work. Huge advantage for having a totally digital classroom is that if your child's going to be out for an extended period of time, all of the lab work, all of the review sheets, all of the lessons are posted on Google Classroom. Usually the lesson for the day I have posted around 9 o'clock. So if your child is absent and is feeling well enough, they can stay up with the content that we're doing by logging on and taking a look at the lessons that we're doing for the day. If a child is absent, however many days they were absent for, that's the amount of time they get to make up the work. Any late work that comes in does receive partial credit. So excuse absence, do not excuse the work. So all students do have to complete the work after they return back to school. So these are our biology topics. As we go through the year, you could see that we will slowly be moving away from review. Most of the review that we're doing is the material that they did last year in class in the 7th grade. So we'll be introducing first new material for 8th grade, probably around late November. And right now we are on topic 2, what is life? That was today's lesson. And that should carry us over until Friday. And then on Monday, we will go into the next topic.
Oh, yeah. So a couple things. If you have any questions, message us through Jupiter. If your kid's in 801, you got to message Mr. Bracco because I don't have your kid. If your kid is in 803, you got to message me, Mr. O'Neill, because Mr. Bracco does not have your kid. But if your kid is in 802, 804, 805, or 806, please message both of us because we both all share those classes.
Mr. Nason is attending the 7th grade academics back to school because all the 8th graders had French already in 7th grade, and much of the policies and everything are the same. So I'm going to just we're just going to flip through his slides. Mr. Nason, his email is there, a little bit about what it means to learn French, and go through the next one. Some mindset, and then this slide is important because there is a change on this slide from last year. Assessments are now worth 70% of the grade and participation is now worth 30%. So there was a slight shift from last year. Everything else in French is the same as it was last year. So you'll be able to review these slides in more detail when you receive the slideshow on Jupiter. Mr. McDonough is their phys ed teacher. He also is with the 7th graders because, again, 8th graders had phys ed last year also with him. So a lot of the same stuff for Mr. McDonough. There's the PE standards. 8th graders receive French 2 times per week and gym 1 time per week. And both Mr. McDonough and Mr. Nason can be messaged on Jupiter if you have any specific questions pertaining to their classes.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Dina Miller. I feel like by now most of you should know exactly who I am because I'm the one that's probably filling your Jupiter inbox with all these messages in regards to high school. Basically, I'm actually on September 30th going to have a Zoom meeting specifically for high school. So I'm just going to go over some general guidelines. And again, this is also on this slideshow as well as I messaged it to Jupiter and Google Classroom. So just quickly, everyone needs a My Schools account. You should have one if you obviously came to middle school, you should already have one. If you forgot your password, you could just reset it. Or if you just want to start from the beginning, message me through Jupiter and it can give you that information. This is super important to have this account because this is where you're signing up for auditions, SHSAT, uploading your essays and everything else. On the Google Classroom, there's quick links to like any question you can possibly have. There's quick links to it. You just need to go through it. The Google Classroom code is right there. I'm not saying check Google Classroom every day, but probably twice a week. And the only way you can get onto Google Classroom is if you ask your child for their DOE email, and they'll be able to link you on. DOE actually is a really good resource in regards to high school. It has everything. They have their own information sessions. So I actually, that's on a quick link also in Google Classroom. Just as far as building a list, I highly suggest 12 to 20 programs. This is in addition to if your child is taking the SHSAT or auditioning for LaGuardia. The big change this year is that the SHSAT will be digital, and it is on November 21st at New Voices. Like I told the kids last week, if you are on the fence whether or not to take it, just sign up for it because there's no penalty if your child doesn't take it the day of the test. But if they come in, I don't know if we'll be able to let them take the test. So just hit yes. And also for the specialized high schools, you don't have to apply to all 8. You could just do 1 or 2. Data format. And I think I'll just read off some timelines. Right now, if you are in your My Schools account, it's not updated. So it's going to show that your child is still in 7th grade. The DOE says by the 22nd, it should be updated. Okay, so we'll see if that happens. If not, it will definitely be done by October. October 7th, the applications actually open. So you can sign up for the SHSAT and LaGuardia and anything else. And on the 31st, the SHSAT is closed. December 3rd, the application is closed, and it goes by really fast. So we just need to stay organized. And in March, the offers are released. Tomorrow, I'm sending out a Sign Up Genius link, which has mostly Tuesdays and some Saturdays for one-on-one meetings with families. They will not be Zooms. It's a phone meeting. And if you cannot meet any of those times or dates, or it just gets filled, just message me 3 dates and times during the school day, and I'll just make it happen. So let's just stay organized, check the Google Classroom, and you can ask me any question via Jupyter. If you want to have a quick conversation, that's fine too. Super important if you are applying to private schools, I really need at least 2 to 3 weeks to get all the paperwork together. So just be, just give me some grace with that. Charter schools, completely separate. You're not listing that on anything for the DOE. And another super important, if I do send out group messages on Jupyter, please do not hit reply. Just start a new message. That's all I ask. And that's it for now.
Again, I'm Mr. Pang. I teach algebra with Ms. Kraus, 804, 805, and 806. I'm going to wrap this up with some general 8th grade experiences and expectations. For the honor roll criteria, all right, for the gold, it's 90% average above, all grades are 90 or above, and you have to be less than 7 times late for the up to that time period. Over 85 for silver. All grades 80 or above, less than 7 times late. Junior Honor Society requirements, gold honor roll for all marking periods. Okay, it's about service and citizenship. You must volunteer a minimum of 10 hours during the school year. That's from September through April. And you have to complete and submit a service log. There's a link for the service log over there. All it is just a sheet of paper that logs in all the times that your child does the volunteer hours. In the spring, eligibility letters will be sent out to any students who are able to apply for membership for this school year. And students will be required to submit an essay explaining how they demonstrate leadership, citizenship, and character. The essays will be reviewed by a committee, and students who fulfill all requirements will receive an invitation to the induction ceremony. This year, there'll be a volunteer service requirement. Students must volunteer a minimum of 10 hours during the school year with the community service organization or an approved school activity. An example of community organizations include nursing homes, religious organizations, soup kitchens, Boy or Girl Scouts. For school activities, there's the New Voices Tech Team, the school musical, helping with food or clothing drives, or just assisting New Voices teachers before, after school, or during lunchtime. Homeroom expectations, students must report to homeroom at 8:15, all right? They'll be marked absence, they'll be marked late, sorry, once the hallways have been cleared, okay? The importance of homeroom really is not just to take attendance, but there are announcements that are made. Phones will be collected, which I'll talk to you about in a moment, to put away their coats and jackets and to get organized and just ready for the day. As you know, this year we have a New York State mandated cell phone policy, right? Students cannot use any personal internet-enabled device during the school day. That's from the bell to bell. Morning to afternoon. All devices will be collected in the morning in homeroom and stored securely in locked closet area. Devices will be returned to students during the afternoon homeroom section. Okay, students who arrive late must hand in the device when they come into the building, right, or turn it into room 310. Late students' devices can be picked up from room 310 at dismissal. Now, if a student needs to contact home, they must come to room 310. And if you need to contact your child, please call the school directly. Some important dates, Ms. Miller had already spoken about the SHSATs, right? The ELA state exam, the computerized, it's a computerized late April date to be determined still. The bio Regents is on June 18th, and the algebra Regents is on June 17th. The end of marking periods, the first trimester ends December 5th, second trimester ends March 19th, 2026, and the third trimester ends June 26th. Parent-teacher conferences are on November 13th and March 12th in the spring. And graduation is June 22nd, 2026. And that's about it.
Thank you all for coming. If there's any questions for any of us or any of the teachers that were not here today, please message them in Jupiter. They will get back to you. Thank you all.